Plasticity and How It Impacts Our Learning by Thomas, Greg, and Carolyn. Remember when you were a kid and your parents told you not to touch the hot stove? You probably didn't understand why at first, but you probably did it anyway. I can guarantee that you didn't touch the stove again after that. Do you ever wonder why you still remember to not touch hot stoves? Neuroscience research tells us that the basis for long-term memory and learning is found in the synapses. A synapse is the space between two neurons where they can communicate with each other. The synapse has one presynaptic cell membrane and one postsynaptic cell membrane that have different receptors and channels on them. The receptors and channels help these neurons talk to each other through the movement of different molecules or neurotransmitters. The presynaptic cell has little bubbles called vesicles that carry neurotransmitters inside of them. These vesicles release neurotransmitters into the synaptic cleft, where certain ions change in concentration on the postsynaptic side. This is because ion channels on the presynaptic membrane open or close depending on the signal the neuron gives them. The neurotransmitters are chemicals that, when released into the synapse, will bind with receptors, like a key finding a lock, on the postsynaptic membrane and cause different reactions. The communication works both ways, and the postsynaptic cell can also send messages to the presynaptic cell. For example, it can tell the presynaptic cell to tell it to stop releasing neurotransmitters.
Channels located on the postsynaptic membrane are responsible for a phenomenon known as plasticity. Plasticity is when neurons strengthen or weaken connections between themselves. In order for the synapse to strengthen, more channels must be placed in the postsynaptic membrane as shown in the diagram. We will only be focusing on strengthening synapses in this video, but synapses can also decrease in strength. Plasticity is the underlying mechanism for how we learn. When we learn a new fact, certain synapses in our brain associated with that fact increase in strength, allowing us to learn. What makes the cell exhibit these new channels? Calcium is the underlying force for more channels, and it enters the cell in many different channels, but the important channel for plasticity is called the NMDA channel, which is opened by the neurotransmitter glutamate. This increase in calcium inside of the cell causes a domino effect that activates other proteins down different pathways in a cell. These pathways cause an increase in AMPA channels that are then moved into the postsynaptic membrane. More AMPA channels means that the postsynaptic cell will respond stronger to signals. When you think about touching a hot stove, the part of your brain that remembers stoves are hot fires strongly due to an increase in AMPA channels.
As just discussed, calcium enters into the NMDA channel to cause an increase in AMPA channels. However, calcium can enter the cell from many different places. While calcium can enter the cell from many different channels, such as the voltage-gated calcium channel, only calcium entering from the NMDA channel can cause an increase in AMPA channels. When NMDA channels are blocked with an NMDA channel antagonist, no potentiation occurs, even though calcium can still enter from these other channels. The issue with these other channels is that they are not in the right location. The first step in creating more AMPA channels is calcium activating calcium commodulin kinase and protein kinase C. These kinases are located very close to the AMPA channels inside the postsynaptic cell and nowhere else in that cell. The calcium entering the postsynaptic cell from these other channels is too far away to reach the kinases and therefore cannot trigger the release of more AMPA channels. This shows that the NMDA channel is necessary for plasticity not only due to its ability to allow calcium to enter the cell, but also due to its location. Going back to the hot stove analogy, when touching a hot stove, you trigger neurons in your brain to fire. When these neurons fire, calcium enters through the NMDA channel and activates these kinases. These kinases then cause an increase in AMPA channels. This increase in AMPA channels will then cause the synapse to increase in strength. Later on, when you think about the hot stove, you can remember it hurts due to the synapse increasing in strength. One more topic that could be discussed and needs to be researched further is how does the duration of calcium influx affect plasticity? Could perhaps different durations of calcium influx cause an increase or perhaps even a decrease in AMPA channels? Thank you for watching this video. This was a class project for our neurobiology class, and it was worked on by Greg, Thomas, and Carolyn, and each of us contribute equally to it. Thank you for watching.